Stop making excuses. The truth is always harsher. After the game, all I heard was a symphony of complaints. They blamed the referees, the calls, the entire world that seemed to be conspiring against them. A chorus of whines. But those are just the excuses of the defeated, a flimsy veil for a truth they dare not face. Today, speaking as an opponent who stood on the other side of the battle line, I will show you that truth. The reason the Indiana Fever lost is not found in the referee's whistle. It is deeper than that, more painful. It lies within themselves. And ironically, their collapse tonight is the greatest possible tribute to the one person who was not on the court, Caitlin Clark. A mental collapse. When the team's very soul is absent. This is the core reason, the origin of all their problems. The Indiana Fever lost this game in their minds long before they lost it on the scoreboard. Their problem is crystal clear. Without Caitlin Clark, this team has no spiritual leader. They may have stars, they may have all-star players, but they lack a captain who can keep the ship steady when the storm hits. Clark is not just a machine for points or assists. She is the moral compass, the beating heart, and the cool head of the entire group. She is the one who looks a teammate in the eye after a bad play and tells them to focus on the next possession, not the one who throws her hands up in helpless frustration at the officials. Without that guiding force, their fragility was laid bare for all to see. Go back and watch the film. How did they react after the first few controversial calls? They did not focus on the next play. They started complaining. Their body language screamed defeat. Slumped shoulders, frustrated head shakes, constant glances toward the bench, as if searching for a salvation that was not there. They allowed those whistles to completely shatter their focus. A championship team never does that. A team with true grit never allows an outside factor to control its emotions. And when the spirit dies, the energy vanishes. They stopped running, stopped fighting with intensity for the balls that were up for grabs. They became listless ghosts on the court, allowing us, the LA Sparks, to waltz into the paint and score with absolute ease. That was not the fault of the referees. It was the fault of their own surrender, of a team that gave up on its fate far too early. This collapse proves one thing. Clark does not just bring points, she brings mental fortitude. The victim syndrome, the deadly trap they set for themselves. The Indiana Fever did not lose because of the referees. They lost because of how they reacted to the referees. They built a narrative for themselves, a conspiracy theory that the whole world was against them. They enter every game with the mindset of expecting to be treated unfairly. Therefore, when an unfavorable whistle blows, it is not seen as a simple mistake. Instead, it becomes the ultimate confirmation of the victim mentality they have created for themselves. And just like that, they crumble. They set their own trap and then willingly walked right into it. That is the difference between a tough team and a team with the mentality of a champion. Look at us. We also dealt with questionable calls. Every team does. But what do? We lock in. We communicate more, and we defend with more intensity on the very next play. We attack with more intelligence and discipline. We turn our anger into fuel. And them? They turn their anger into complaints and sloppy individual errors. They let frustration control their hands and their minds. They allowed their opponent and the referees to get inside their heads, and once that happens, the game is already over. This is the silent but immense value of Caitlin Clark. When she is on the court, her absolute focus on winning leaves no room for this victim syndrome to exist. She is the antidote to this self-inflicted poison. Toxic. Hero ball. When the system named Clark collapses. When Plan A, Caitlin Clark, was not there, they had no Plan B, C, or D. They only had selfish individuals trying to solve the problem on their own. When they were trailing and the pressure mounted, what did they do? They stopped playing the team basketball that had helped them win previous games. They fell into the trap of toxic hero ball. The ball stopped moving. Kelsey Mitchell tried to single-handedly drive through 3 defenders. Aaliyah Boston, instead of fighting for good position, tried to force a difficult shot while surrounded by 2 or 3 of our players. Each one went their own way. Each one tried to be the savior, and as a result, They sank the entire ship. For an opposing coach, that style of play is incredibly easy to predict. We knew exactly who was going to try to be the hero. We knew they were not going to pass the ball. All we had to do was focus our defense on those one or two individuals, set our traps, and wait for them to make a mistake. And they made mistakes, time and time again. The Indiana Fever were not beaten by the LA Sparks. They were beaten by their own lack of cohesion, their selfishness, and their panic. This exposes an undeniable truth. Caitlin Clark is not just a player in the system. She is the system. She is the playmaker, the one who ensures the ball is shared, the one who makes all her teammates better because they trust in her decisions. When she is absent, the system collapses, leaving only disconnected fragments behind. Refs don't lose games. Weakness does. So do not talk to me about the referees anymore. Let's talk about a team that could not control its own emotions. Let's talk about a team that lacked character and mentally collapsed without their number one star. A referee might take a few points from you. They might make a few unfair calls. But it is mental weakness, it is panic, and a lack of discipline that costs you an entire victory. And perhaps in the most ironic way, the Sparks coach, in his harsh criticism, unintentionally gave Caitlin Clark the greatest compliment possible. He did not say the Fever were weak. He said the Fever are weak without Clark. Their complete collapse, their mental and tactical disintegration, is the most powerful evidence of Caitlin Clark's immeasurable value. This loss does not speak to the weakness of the Fever. It speaks to the greatness of the leader who had to sit on the sidelines. They need her not just to score points, but to keep them from defeating themselves. That is the real reason.